The Hegemony Alliance had spent roughly 50,000 years perfecting what they like to call civilized expansion, a delightfully euphemistic term for conquering everything that moved while maintaining impeccable paperwork. Their latest acquisition, a small blue-green planet called Earth, had provided them with their most amusing subjects yet: humans, bipedal, fragile, and possessing all the diplomatic finesse of a caffeinated toddler. Humans had somehow managed to stumble into interstellar politics without the courtesy of asking permission first. What made humans particularly entertaining to the hegemony's xenobiologists was their refreshing honesty about their own limitations. Most species spent centuries crafting elaborate mythologies about their superiority before joining galactic society. Humans just shrugged and admitted they'd been throwing rocks at each other until relatively recently. It was almost endearing, in the way that watching a three-legged dog attempt parkour might be endearing. Commander Vexthera of the Zilithian Archaeological Corps found humans especially fascinating for their apparent evolutionary dead ends. Her species had evolved in a perfectly linear fashion over millions of years, each generation slightly more efficient than the last. Humans, by contrast, seem to have taken the scenic route through natural selection, picking up random traits like a drunk tourist collecting souvenirs, which brought her to Earth's northern territories on this particularly crisp morning, standing knee-deep in what humans charmingly called prehistoric mud, while her scanning equipment beeped with increasing enthusiasm. The Hegemony's extinction archives had cataloged over 47,000 dead species across the galaxy, but finding extinct relatives of a current species was always a special treat. It was like discovering rough drafts of a particularly mediocre poem. Dr. Kozlov, Vexthera called to the human paleontologist who'd been assigned as their guide, "Your species' record-keeping suggests we should find evidence of your predecessors in this region. Something called Neanderthals." Elena Kozlov looked up from her own equipment, brushing a strand of graying hair from her face with the back of her gloved hand. She'd been watching the alien archaeological team work for 3 days now, and their casual dismissal of human evolutionary history was beginning to grate on her nerves like fingernails on a chalkboard. "That's correct, Commander. Homo neanderthalensis. They lived in this region for hundreds of thousands of years before going extinct roughly 40,000 years ago." "Ah, yes, the failed prototype." Vexthera nodded sagely, her translator rendering her tone with just the right amount of academic condescension. "We see this pattern frequently. Species often produce several iterations before arriving at a viable final form. Though I must say, if these Neanderthals were the rough draft, the editing process seems to have been rather conservative." Elena's jaw tightened slightly, but before she could respond, the scanning array erupted in a symphony of alerts that would have made a fire station jealous. Vexthera's secondary arms danced across the controls while her primary hands gestured excitedly at the readings. "Extraordinary. We have a complete settlement structure, perfectly preserved in the permafrost. Dr. Kozlov, this appears to be an intact Neanderthal community. The preservation is remarkable. We should be able to extract complete genetic sequences, cultural artifacts, perhaps even behavioral patterns." The excavation that followed was a masterclass in hegemony efficiency. Within hours, their molecular disassemblers had carefully extracted a complete Neanderthal dwelling, its contents frozen in time, like a snapshot of daily life from 40 millennia past. What they found inside made Vexthera's eye stalks practically vibrate with scientific excitement. "Dr. Kozlov, these bone tools show remarkable sophistication, and these cave paintings, the mathematical precision is quite advanced for a primitive species." Vexthera paused, studying a series of carved symbols. "Though I suppose even failed evolutionary branches can show flashes of potential." Elena had been examining the skeletal remains with growing unease. The Neanderthal bones told a story that the aliens seemed determined to misread. "Commander, I think you're misunderstanding something fundamental about Neanderthals. They weren't failed humans. They were incredibly successful in their own right. Stronger than modern humans, with larger brain capacity, perfectly adapted to harsh environments. They survived ice ages that would have wiped out most species." "Then why did they go extinct while your species survived?" Vexthera asked with the sort of patient tone usually reserved for explaining basic concepts to children. "They didn't exactly go extinct," Elena said carefully. "They integrated. Modern humans carry Neanderthal DNA. We didn't replace them. We absorbed them. This gave Vexthera pause. The hegemony's evolutionary models didn't account for species merger. It was either dominance or extinction, with very little middle ground. The idea that two related species might cooperate rather than compete was unusual. Fascinating. So modern humans are essentially a hybrid species? Vexthara's tone shifted from condescending to genuinely curious. That would explain some of the inconsistencies we've observed in human behavior patterns? Elena nodded, though she suspected the aliens still weren't grasping the full implications. Neanderthals contributed traits that helped humans survive in harsh conditions: problem-solving abilities, pattern recognition, physical resilience. We're not the successful version of humanity, Commander. We're the combined version. The genetic analysis results that came back from the Hegemony's mobile laboratory made Vexthera's scientific enthusiasm reach what could only be described as dangerous levels. The Neanderthal DNA was not only intact, but remarkably complete. Their reconstruction technology, originally developed for studying extinct hegemony species, could theoretically rebuild a living specimen from the genetic material. Dr. Kozlov, this is an unprecedented opportunity, Vexthera announced, her forearms gesturing with barely contained excitement. We could resurrect one of your ancestral species. Think of what we could learn about human evolutionary development, about the integration process you described. The Hegemony Council would be fascinated to study a living example of your species' predecessor. Elena felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Arctic wind. Commander, I really don't think that's a good idea. We don't fully understand Neanderthal psychology, their social structures, their capabilities. Nonsense, Vexthera waved dismissively. Our xenopsychology protocols are quite comprehensive. We've successfully studied hundreds of primitive species. An extinct human variant should pose no particular challenges. The casual arrogance in that statement made Elena's blood pressure spike, but she forced herself to remain calm. These aren't primitive humans, Commander. They're a different species entirely, one that survived in conditions that would kill most modern humans without technology. But Vexthera was already transmitting authorization requests to the Hegemony Research Station in orbit. The opportunity to study a resurrected extinct species was too valuable to pass up, especially one so closely related to their newest galactic members. It would provide invaluable insights into human nature, human weaknesses, and human potential. Elena watched the alien archaeological team pack up their samples with growing dread. She had a sinking feeling that the Hegemony was about to learn something about human evolution that wasn't going to appear in any textbook. Something that might make them reconsider their casual assumptions about humanity's place in the galactic hierarchy. After all, there was a reason Neanderthals had survived ice ages, predators, and environmental catastrophes for hundreds of thousands of years, and the Hegemony was about to wake one up.